Welcome to Handmade History.
Hello, and welcome to the show. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sonia.
And today we are talking about Laura Ashley. But first, this episode is sponsored by Quilt Folk. What if you could travel the country without leaving your sewing room? Quilt Folk is a quarterly, print-only magazine that celebrates quilt history and quilt culture. Each issue takes you to a different state, sharing the stories of quilters, shop owners, designers, historians, and makers, the people behind the stitches. With 164 pages of beautiful photography and thoughtful storytelling, and absolutely no advertisements, Quilt Folk is slow reading you can savor. It's a chance to slow down, feel connected, and be inspired by the craft we love. Travel stitch by stitch with Quilt Folk wherever you like to read or sew. Get 20% off your first order now with coupon code HandmadeHistory. Thank you, Quilt Folk. And now, on to the show.
Laura Ashley was an iconic designer. She began her career printing fabric in her apartment in the 1950s, but she soon began to make smocks and later dresses. She also created home decor fabrics and designs. Her company, also called Laura Ashley, grew quickly and at its peak had 450 shops around the world. Laura Ashley's style is very recognizable. It includes a lot of floral prints, Victorian fabrics, and feminine designs. If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, chances are your home decor had a touch of Laura Ashley style somewhere. Ruffly pillows, drapey curtains, light pink and white, these are some of the hallmarks of Laura Ashley style. In fact, it's hard to imagine what home decor in our childhoods would be like without Laura Ashley. Her dresses were also incredibly popular. They were also made from floral fabric and featured high Victorian collars, old-fashioned details like buttons and small ruffles, and were relatively simple in design. These were high fashion in the 80s and 90s and worn around the globe.
Laura Ashley was born Laura Mountney on September 7th, 1925, in Dowlais, a town in Wales. She was educated in London, but in 1938, she was evacuated to Wales. She served in the English Royal Navy during World War II. She met her future husband, Bernard Ashley, at a youth club in Wallington, London. They were married in 1949, and Laura took his last name, becoming Laura Ashley. And for clarity, we will call Laura Ashley by her first name in the rest of this episode, even though we normally call important people by their last names. And we will also call Bernard Ashley by his first name.
A lot of Ashleys.
Yeah.
The Ashleys lived in Pimlico, a neighborhood in London. In 1953, Laura saw a Women's Institute exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum. It was all about traditional handicrafts. Laura was inspired to make a patchwork quilt. She wanted to use Victorian-style fabrics, but she couldn't find any that she liked in shops. So she decided to make her own. She invested £10 in wood, screens, dyes, and linen, or about $150 today. She checked out books from the library, and she began to screen print her own fabric.
And we'll take a brief sidetrack to talk about the Women's Institute, because in reading this story, which is told in many places about Laura Ashley, I became curious about the Women's Institute. The Women's Institute was started in Britain in 1915. The first meeting was held in Anglesey, Wales. It was a voluntary organization. It was called the Women's Institute because it was intended to be the women's branch of the Farmers' Institute. And here, institute means an organization with the goal of education. In 1917, the National Federation of Women's Institutes was formed. And by 1918, there were 137 women's institutes around the country. Each women's institute is like a local chapter of the organization. The National Federation, or the NFWI, is a democratic, non-party political, voluntary organization. The first women in charge of the NFWI were leaders from the women's suffrage movement in England.
Over the next few decades, the Women's Institute played an important role in war efforts. In 1938, the same year Laura Ashley was evacuated home to Wales, the Women's Institute helped oversee the evacuation of children from London. They continued to do this through the 1940s. They also created a produce guild and encouraged and educated people in growing and preserving their own food. The Women's Institute also had a strong tradition of advocating for social issues. For example, in the 1940s, they advocated for equal pay for men and women. They also launched awareness campaigns about homelessness, pollution, HIV/AIDS, mental health, and climate change, among other causes. They were a founding member of the Fair Trade Organization in 1993. The Fair Trade Organization is, quote, the global community and verifier of enterprises that fully practice fair trade. This includes 10 principles, like transparency, fair payment, no child or forced labor, and good working conditions.
In 1948, they opened Denman College, a center for learning. It is still open today. It's now a virtual platform called VIA. It offers classes in numerous fields, from business to history to arts and crafts. According to their website, the goals of the Women's Institute include advancing education of women and girls, promoting sustainable development, advancing health, and advancing citizenship by promoting civic responsibility and volunteering. Unfortunately, just this past month, they stopped allowing transgender women to join their organization. In a post on their website, the NFWI wrote that this is a direct result of a UK Supreme Court decision which was passed last year. Before April of 2026, the organization, quote, proudly welcomed transgender women into our membership for more than 40 years. And this resolution, quote, does not change our firm belief that transgender women are women.
It's a real bummer.
I know.
After getting inspired by the Women's Institute exhibition to start making quilts and eventually printing her own fabric, Laura Ashley and her husband Bernard Ashley took a trip to Italy. There, they saw lots of young women wearing scarves. A Roman holiday had come out that year, starring Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck, and Hepburn wears very pretty scarves while wandering Rome with Peck. The Ashleys realized that they could make these scarves in their home. They began printing scarves and bringing them to stores. Soon they were sold in classy shops like John Lewis and Heels. They printed other small home linens like tea towels and placemats. The Ashleys incorporated the company under the name Ashley Monty Limited in 1954, a combination of the couple's two last names. But soon after, they changed it to Laura Ashley.
The company grew quickly. Laura and Bernard moved to a cottage in Kent in 1955 to have more space. In 1958, they opened a London showroom to showcase their fabrics and home linens. The Ashleys also had a few children. By 1961, Laura Ashley and her husband had 3 children under 6. They were cramped and unhappy and running a business together. Laura packed up the 3 children and some tents and moved back to Wales. She camped on the Modoc estuary near Dolgellau. Bernard followed a few weeks later. Her oldest son, David, said in an article on BBC, "Looking back on it now and having children of my own, I suppose it was quite radical. There was one tent for the children, another tent for my parents, and a middle tent, which was the family tent." Bernard went back and forth to London, and David remembers that people thought that Bernard was keeping a second family in the tents. Eventually, the Ashleys opened a shop in Mahonsheth and moved in above it. In addition to selling their printed fabrics, they also sold locally made goods like honey and hand-carved walking sticks. Laura also worked with a local seamstress to make smock shirts and aprons she called garden smocks.
Another brief sidetrack. Let's talk about smocking. Smocking is a hand-sewing technique that is decorative and serves a unique purpose. It's done over pleated or gathered fabric. It allows the fabric to stretch without using elastic. Smocking is done using smocking stitches, such as the cable stitch. It can be done in straight lines or in waves or diamond shapes. It's often done on children's dresses, and it's very pretty. Laura Ashley intended her garden smocks to be useful. You could wear them over your regular clothes and work in a kitchen or the garden. Historically, smocks were work clothes. However, people started buying these so-called garden smocks and wearing them in their regular lives. One woman even got married in one. In 1966, Laura designed and produced her first dress. She still loved all things Victorian, so her dresses were often ankle length with high collars and buttons on the front. There were also details like lace.
In 1967, the Ashleys opened a shop and factory in a railway station that had closed 2 years earlier. They also bought a flatbed printing machine, which allowed them to print 5,000 meters of fabric per week. They took out 100 ads on the Underground in London and soon customers started coming to their shop in droves. In 2 months, the shop turnout increased 3,000% from its early days. Eventually, they closed that first shop in Machynlleth and opened a second shop in Shrewsbury back in England.
Laura Ashley's shop sales exploded. In the early 1970s, her 2 shops and orders from the London showroom brought in £300,000. That is about $2.5 million today. The company also started making licensing deals and selling Laura Ashley dresses and home linens in department stores. They sold in shops in Australia, Canada, and Japan. They also opened new Laura Ashley shops in Paris and San Francisco in 1974, as well as numerous other shops across the UK. By 1975, there were more than 40 Laura Ashley stores worldwide. The company was making more than £5 million each year, which is almost $42 million today. The company employed more than 1,000 people. In 1977, the company earned the Queen's Award for Export and Technology. This is a prestigious business award in the UK. It was started in 1966 as the Queen's Award to Industry. It is now called the Queen's Award for Enterprise. In addition to excellent press coverage and cachet, the winners of this award also receive a commemorative crystal bowl and are invited to a royal reception. They can also fly the Queen's Award flag at their place of business and use the Queen's Award emblem on their company stationery for 5 years.
Pretty cool.
Pretty nice.
Yeah. In 1979, the Ashleys moved to northern France. That same year, the company launched a line of perfumes to celebrate their 25th anniversary. Laura Ashley's style evolved to a somewhat grander style. Instead of cottagecore, it was more country housecore. The company expanded its line of offerings, and in 1981, they created their first home furnishing catalog. The next year, they launched the Decorator collection of fabric for interior design. Also in 1982, the company published the Laura Ashley Book of Home Decorating. I looked this book up, and our mom definitely had it. And you can read the entire book online at archive.org. This quote from the introduction by Laura really encapsulates her style. She writes, "For me, the more faded and mellow the interior, the more beautiful it is. I long for a newly decorated room to settle down. Handmade patchworks, needleworks, rag rugs, lots of laces and white starch lines, together with old-fashioned smoothing irons, are all bliss to me. I have lived with slate floors for preference, strewn with gumboots, dogs, and children, and at the same time somehow managed to maintain the ritual of the dining room and the complete peace of comfortable bedrooms. These things turn a living environment into a home." Laura goes on to describe this book as a bridge between the shop shelf and the home, with photos of rooms to inspire the reader and help you make design choices in your own home. She says, "We at Laura Ashley hope the book will give you many happy hours of browsing and help you transform your house into a happy home." In addition to beautiful, creative country-style interiors, there are also articles by Elizabeth Dixon on style and how to decorate different rooms like dining rooms and bedrooms. And there are practical tutorials by Margaret Colvin that teach readers how to do things like paint a room, install wallpaper, make different window coverings, and stencil trim. And our mom stenciled the trim in our house. This was a very popular thing to do in the 90s. Do you remember the dinosaurs that were on our brother's closets?
Yes.
They were very cute.
I did not realize, that she's into those. Yeah. That's nice. In addition to creating an iconic brand and growing a hugely successful company, Laura was an interesting person. Her son David said, quote, "She was quiet, and I suppose you could use the term manipulative, but persuasive, I think, is a better word." Rosina Corfield, one of her first employees in the Welsh shop, said that Laura was, quote, "always smiling, never miserable." She also described her and Bernard as a bit way out to what we were used to, like hippies. She said, quote, "They would stick out walking the street because of their style, which included stand-up collars, big brooches, and beads." Corfield appreciated that she was able to work at home for Laura while she had small children. The company delivered fabric to her house for her to sew. Brian Jones, a painter who designed fabric for the company after his father applied for a job on his behalf in 1972, said that Laura always, quote, "wore the same white blouse, cardigan, and skirt." He said sometimes she'd have a hole in her sleeve. It didn't matter. Jones, who didn't have much painting experience when he was hired, said that Laura chose him because, quote, she was looking for somebody who could adapt her ideas into print. She knew what she wanted. It was all from her ideas, her company.
Unfortunately, Laura suffered a freak accident when she was only 60 years old. She fell down the stairs and passed away just 10 days later. This was heartbreaking for her family, of course, and also for her employees. The Laura Ashley Company went public only 2 months after her death. It was very successful throughout the next 2 decades. The company released several successful fabric collections, including the Mother and Child Collection, the Laura Ashley Home Collection, and the Chatsworth House Collection. The Chatsworth House Collection was inspired by a visit to this historic home in Derbyshire, England. By the end of the 1980s, there were more than 450 Laura Ashley shops, and Bernard Ashley was knighted.
The company celebrated its 40th anniversary in 1993. In 1994, the company installed a plaque at 83 Cambridge Street, which was Laura and Bernard's first apartment in Pimlico, where they screen printed their first fabrics. However, the company began to suffer financially. All their fabrics were manufactured in the UK, while other companies began to manufacture overseas. However, the company was bought out by Malayan United Industries, which is still a majority stock owner of Laura Ashley today. They were one of the first companies to create a website and sell online. LauraAshley.com launched in October of 2001.
And Laura Ashley, the company, is still around today. They no longer sell fabric. However, they sell wallpaper, window coverings, bedding, accessories like neckties, and stationery. And they have partnerships with fashion designers and upscale accessory designers. And people still recognize the iconic style that Laura pioneered. And that is Laura Ashley. Sonia, what do you think?
I was looking up the prints and everything for this episode, and I was like, oh, I definitely had at least a Laura Ashley inspired bedspread.
Yes.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
The blue floral one I had.
Oh, yes. Blue floral, very Laura Ashley.
Yeah, it had the ruffles on all the pillows.
Oh, so pretty.
Yeah.
I, after browsing the Laura Ashley website and failing to find any fabric, I then went to look up fabric and dresses on eBay. And you can find both, but there's not very much fabric available, unfortunately. There are a lot of fun Laura Ashley dresses. I was considering buying one for our other sister's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Could be fun.
That's very summery.
Very summery. Yeah, they are super pretty, and the style is totally coming back right now. So I think this is topical today.
Yeah, I was thinking all the prairie dress styles coming back, and it was all kind of cycling through again. So the Victorian coming back, yeah.
Yeah, floral touches. I love it.
Victorians again in this episode.
Oh, more Victorians.
I mean, they're not really there, but she was inspired by the look.
She was. I was thinking, so she is looking at these Victorian patchworks in the 1950s, really early 1950s, 1950, let's say, 1951, 1952. So that's like 2 generations ago would have been the Victorians. So it's kind of the same thing that happens, we like our grandparents' stuff.
Mm.
We don't like our parents' stuff. We skip a generation that stuff. So she was doing the same thing.
Wow.
Just a theory. Well, thank you so much for listening. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Quilt Folk. Don't forget to use code HandmadeHistory to get 20% off your first order now on quiltfolk.com. And we are going to take a break for the summer. We have one more bonus episode, our interview with Jane Healy, to celebrate the end of our read-along of her book, The Saturday Evening Girls Club. It's not too late to join us in the read-along. You can find all the info on our Patreon at patreon.com/handmadehistorypodcast or on our website or social media.
If you have a question or comment or an idea for a future episode, please email us at handmadehistoryhosts@gmail.com or visit our website at handmadehistorypodcast.com.
Thanks. See you in September.
Bye. Laura Ashley.
Tough
You know, it's a
start.
rough start. Rough first. Said Laura wrong. I don't like it.